A friend of mine had family that lived in Kentucky, and a few years ago they had an ice storm that rolled through and left them without power and without heat and so forth for quite a while. And she said that she was so surprised that the Walmart store in that locality was only letting people in one or two at a time. They held them off at the front door and only let them go in the store one or two at a time with a flashlight to get what they needed. And then they could only buy it if they had cash. And then if they didn't have change, if they bought $50 worth of stuff and only had if they bought $30 worth of stuff and had a $50 bill, oh well, if they didn't have the change, they just were out of luck because that's the way it was. And I think we can safely say that if the ATMs went down and the electronic purchasing power of a debit card and so forth were suspended, it would be back to good old cash for a while. And having said that, I think it's fairly obvious, and most of us are aware, that we ought to have a variety of denominations. It probably would be a good idea to have a limited, at least, supply of coin change and $1 bills and $5 bills and so on and so forth. To each his own, I guess, is how much of what you want to store, but just a casual, simple reminder to not be without some cash reserves. If everything you have in your wallet is 20s and you're trying to buy things that cost $2 and $3 or trying to buy a 99-cent hamburger, it could get a little awkward in a short period of time, and you might be willing to pay more for a hot hamburger in the right circumstances. The Popeye movie comes to mind. It was just a brilliant movie years ago. I would gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. There isn't going to be any of that stuff going on. There isn't going to be any, I will gladly bring my debit card into you when the electricity goes back on. That kind of thing is not going to happen. So I would gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. It will not happen. So keep some cash supplies on hand. And we used to keep $70 in the emergency kit, and most of it was in small bills. I now have a couple of 20-ounce cups that I dump my coin change into, and I'm going to try to be more vigilant in keeping something handy. And you might want to keep it in more than one location. You might want to keep that not just in more than one location of your house, but you might want to have a location away from home that you keep a little too. You might want to make sure your kids have some especially if they're away from home, and so on and so on and so forth. God bless your efforts to prepare, make a list, and check it twice, and put cash on the list. Goodbye. 3 minutes.